And then the only reason I have this much of a beard right now is I'm currently like, as they say, I'm on a veil for a TV commercial. And because I went to the callback, at the callback, they're like, don't change anything about how you look between now and, I mean, this is one of those things. I say that because actors are constantly put on a veil for things, and then you just never hear from them again. And so it'll be like, I would have shaved like 3 days ago because I don't normally have it this much. But like, what'll happen is I won't hear from them. I'll keep this for another 7 days, and then it'll just be like, oh, I guess I'm not getting that gig because it would have shot yesterday. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know you, of course, from Superstore, but we also share one thing in common. We're both big fans of Never Not Funny. So,
Oh, yes. I'm a huge fan.
yeah,
I have crossed the Rubicon into actually being on it, which is very surreal to me when I'm there.
not even like just being on it. You're a friend of the show, which
Friend
is
of the show now. I'm in
ridiculous.
I'm in the five timer club.
That 5 times. Oh my God, has it been that many? That's
It
crazy.
has been, yeah, it's crazy.
I interviewed Jimmy for their 1,000th episode, I think the 1,000th mainline, and that was during the pandemic, and it was before I was doing video, and it was just all audio only, and it was great. We had a nice 30-minute chat, and it was just a good conversation talking about just all things comedy and also podcasting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the show. I mean it's amazing to see you go around and do this show and to come back from the Fringe Festival and have done it in front of so many people. You're just across the world even. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it's been surreal to do it in so many different places and to let the show kind of grow as much as it has. I mean, I only realized this past August when I was in Fringe doing my new show that really the most advantageous thing about it is I get to do the show uh 27 times in a row every single day.
Yeah.
And it's just inevitable that the show's going to grow when you do it that many times.
Right. I mean, you must feel a lot like how people who do plays on Broadway or just even off Broadway, just how that feels like every single day they've got to do 2 to 3 shows and just it's just in your head and you're able to take whatever didn't work on Tuesday of last week and make something new for Wednesday of next week. It's insane to me. And I don't know how does it what's the mentality when you're doing that many shows in a row?
Some of it is just a marathon survival type mindset
Mhm.
of just get through the month because whenever I go to Edinburgh, I'm also doing other improv shows and stuff. So I have a few shows a day, which can be tiring just like physically, can be tiring on your voice. I actually brought Scarlett Johansson back this past year. So I had 4 or 5 days where I was doing the new show, last year's show, and an improv show. And at the end of that little 4 or 5 day run, my voice was getting like pretty ragged.
Right.
So some of it is just uh, you know, I don't want to frame it as athletic because I think that's a stretch.
Yeah.
But there is an element of like taking care of your body. I think that is not I think when we're doing stand up normally in our hometowns, like we're not thinking that much about it. When
Mhm.
you're in your hometown and you're doing like say 8 to 10 minute slots here and there, it's not so much a thing of like, oh, I got to make sure I'm hydrated and all that stuff.
Right. Did you have the beard while you were doing the show?
I had the beard from after the Scarlet. I don't know why, but I never do the Scarlett Johansson show with any kind of facial hair.
Okay.
Um, but then my new show Sardines is about death, so I'm like, sure, have a beard.
Yeah, why
Um,
not?
and I just kind of let it go. And then the only reason I have this much of a beard right now is I'm currently like, as they say, I'm on a veil for a TV commercial, and because I went to the callback at the callback, they're like, don't change anything about how you look between now and, I mean, this is one of those things. I say that because actors are constantly put on a veil for things, and then you just never
Right.
hear from them again. And so it'll be like, I would have shaved like 3 days ago because I don't normally have it this much. But like, what'll happen is I won't hear from them. I'll keep this for another 7 days, and then it'll just be like, oh, I guess I'm not getting that gig because it would have shot yesterday.
Right. Yeah. I wonder, it'll also be very interesting if in a couple of months there is a commercial. It's like a Danny's yogurt Yoplait commercial or whatever, and it's just you eating yogurt, and we just see just like
Yeah,
the silhouette of the beard. It'd be
you'll
amazing.
see this beard. I don't know if I've done anything on camera with this much of a beard with this much gray in it.
No, I no, you still look as young as you did as you were when you're on Superstore, when you're on any show that you've done. You look like the same person.
Well, when I'm clean shaven, I look pretty much the same way I did when I was 22. So,
Now, for Scarlett Johansson, as you've been referring it as, what what was the process of bringing it to Dropout? Like I love what Sam has done with the company with College Humor and changing it for a modern day era and you know in more or less terms uh maturing it and it really seems like it's a company that a media company that understands its target audience and is able to
mm.
draw in new people. So for you to be a new special on this platform, how does it how was that process for you? What was it like? Do you like it? Were you a fan of Dropout before?
I was a fan of Dropout before. I had been on a couple of episodes of various shows on Dropout before, but I wouldn't say that I was like a mainstay of the channel in terms of the cast.
Mhm.
I think that this Dropout Presents series has been reflective of Sam, on one hand, being like, hey, I'm a CEO and I have this sort of box of toys.
Mhm.
And the same way that somebody like Elon Musk, this is the only person that's going to compare Sam Reich to Elon Musk. Um, the same way that Elon Musk can be like, hey, I have this much resources. Here's the things I can do with it. I think
Yeah.
Sam thinks the same way, except that his things that he likes to do are he likes to curate really cool stuff and he likes to help artists make money.
Mm.
So he has this audience base, but like you said, he's aware of who their audience is, but also there are, there's always like financial demands to like grow your audience, right? And so I think you can continue to make shows that appeal just to that demographic, or you can also try to expand the audience by bringing in some outside perspective. So I think most um I would say most sharply in that approach is like having Hank Green do a special.
Mm.
Hank Green is certainly like there's probably a big chunk of a Venn diagram between someone who likes Dropout and who likes Hank Green, but they're not exactly the same audience. And so I'm sure that there was an influx of people that subscribed to Dropout to watch Hank Green special, who then have stuck around to watch Make Some Noise or Game Changer or Dimension
Yeah.
20, right? And so, and also, Sam has been very candid about the fact that Hank Green was the first special in the Dropout Presents series
Mhm.
because he wanted to take advantage of the fact that Hank is very popular to boost the series as a whole. So somebody like me, or I would argue probably like Courtney Peroso or the guys from the big team, maybe we're not as well known as Hank Green,
Yeah.
but Hank Green's presence brings attention to the series as a whole.
Yeah. I like I was unable to find this article but there was something that Sam said earlier this year about paying the artists back. They were able like to pay their artists back. Everybody got like a bunch of uh money back. Essentially everybody was able to get money because they were making so much money with Dropout.
Yeah,
Uh
I got like a random like holiday bonus last year. I
yes,
mean,
like a bonus type thing.
where we just got like an extra check.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Um, Actually, for people who have seen my special, I only recently learned that there's a couple chunks in it where I have some other people make cameos in the show. Um, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that those people made full day rates for their cameos. Um, and I mean, by the way, I think that's great. I'm just saying that like for some of them, they only worked like an extra 9 minutes, which is great. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
I'm just saying that like they got a full extra day for it, which I think is awesome.
yeah.
And I think and by the way, that wasn't, I would have never agreed to that. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Like, I honestly just kind of thought, in the way comedy works is like you're shooting a sketch, you ask your friends to help you out with it. I, from my perspective, I'm like, hey, could you just hang around a little bit? Of course,
Right.
that's why I'm not an executive at Dropout, because they like took it upon themselves to say like, no, we're going to pay the artists for their work, which
Hmm.
is, they don't have to appear in some project that they don't know that much about, but they are going to do it, which means they're lending their face and their name to it, and they're playing themselves. So I think that's a
Right.
factor as well. So they got paid a full extra day, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I was like true. I just couldn't. I wish I could find the legal language they use for it, but I think that's so awesome, and the fact that there are people who pop up on comedy podcasts or just around the comedy sphere, um, like Erica Ishii, John Gabris, Jess McKenna, Vic Michaelis, Rekha Sankar, and just Zeke Nicholson, Jaquise Neal, Ify Wadaway, so many different people that you've seen around the comedy world and more that are able to make a living or at least have that paycheck that can help them with SAG or what have you, just pop up. And if they pop up in your special or their own thing or any one of the shows on Dropout, it's just an amazing thing. It reminds me of when Comedy Bang Bang, it's a different show now, but when Comedy Bang Bang was the height of its powers and you would see different comedians pop up on shows on Earwolf like that. And yeah, but now it's just we're in a different kind of culture, this TikTok culture where things are kind of are built for this expedient nature of watching something, and it's got to be attention grabbing. And I think Dropout really does offer that sort of programming. What other shows have you been on with Dropout? What kind of shows were you on there?
I first appeared on Play It by Ear, which is musical improv. I've done two of those. I've done an Actually. I've done a Make Some Noise, which came out a couple months ago, and a Dirty Laundry. And I'm in an episode of Gastronauts that's coming out soon.
Okay.
So
Would you want, I mean, obviously you'd want to keep working and doing things, but for with Dropout, would you want to continue partnering with them and seeing and finding maybe your own type of show or another special with them or something along those lines?
yeah, I would. I mean, I would love to do my next show with them. I'd love to like create some stuff with them. Some of it is like finding the right project and in terms of the right fit. But
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, I would work for Dropout probably. I think working for Dropout is a potentially viable way to almost have like a middle class existence in show business.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
would be a in a way that would be very pleasant to have a life around.
Mhm. I
So
get it.
like if I were to go try to get a like series let's say I auditioned to be a series regular on like an NBC sitcom, um the amount of money I would make from something like that would be exponentially more than Dropout.
Mhm.
It would just be like that's me being a millionaire type situation.
Right.
I do think that you're subject to other pressures in situations like that, and I think that my experiences collaborating with Dropout have been a lot more pure in terms of you're only talking to a couple of people. You're only really talking about how good the project is. You're not, at least from the artist side, we are not exposed much to like, hey, the show has to like move this certain number of streams or else it's going to get canceled. I imagine if I was like creating a show, like if I was EPing something new, I probably would be exposed to that a little bit. But I think my interactions with Dropout have been very much about just like, hey, what is fun or funny? What can we create that's going to be great for people to watch,
Right.
right? I think that I think it'd be difficult to get rich working at Dropout, um, but it is kind of like there's a lot more people making pretty good money at Dropout as
Mhm.
opposed to a few people just getting like mega rich off
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Um, so like the it's just been so pleasant to work with them and so much focused on how good is the show in a way that I think maybe it's because they're a smaller company as well, but like just working with bigger networks, it's just there are so many more cooks in the kitchen.
Yes, exactly. And they're a lot more lean and they're able if a show's not working, then they can give it a couple of more episodes of running just to see how they can get it to work. And I think, it's I listened to Howard Stern talking to Michael Che and Colin Jost this week, and he asked them why, like, would they want to run SNL? And even when they were head writers, because they're not head writers anymore, but even when they were head writers, would they have wanted, Lauren's job to know all the I'm butchering this, but like, the ratings for the episodes and like
Right.
what's playing well online and all that stuff. And I think that just adds an entirely different layer. Like once you know all that, then you're not going to be, chasing, like doing the right thing with the show. Like if I was running a show called Dr. Monkey on CBS, and it was a single camera sitcom, and the first three episodes didn't do very well, and I could retool the next nine episodes because they had a full season order, then I would change it, from my original vision of, Dr. Monkey was supposed to be this great game-changing broadcast sitcom, and now I have to
Yeah.
change it to work with middle America. And I think with somebody like Sam, who is able to choose somebody like you to put on a show about diversity and inclusion and inclusionness, I guess. I think it's fascinating, and I think it could work a lot better. Like you said, it's more pure, and you guys can just do things that are fun. In the end, when that's out, you can work with other projects on Dropout and do things that are fun for you and make more sense for you at this point in time in your life.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about when Sam approached me to do Dropout Presents was that like he didn't have to ask anybody else whether or not, there wasn't like a bunch of hoops I had to jump through. It was just like, hey, do I want to do it? And I was, and I thought about like if I tried to sell this to someone else, I don't think there's a world where so let's say I have this hour special, right? Dropout can partner with me to create it and put it out on Dropout. I would say the con is it's limited to the Dropout subscription base.
Mhm.
So it has a lower ceiling in terms of how many people can see it. But other options are I shoot the thing myself, I put it out on YouTube. That's one option. And then the other option is I shoot it myself and try to sell it to Netflix or somebody else.
Right.
Um, the number of hoops, I mean, YouTube has the fewest number of hoops, right? Um, but if I want to sell it to something with technically like a bigger platform, I don't think I'm just gonna be able to like just do it for Netflix and have no non-comedy people that I'm gonna have to answer to for it.
Mhm.
Whereas Sam is at the top of the heap in Dropout, and he's still a comedy person. So
Right.
like there's not so much a concept of like suits at Dropout. People that are like disconnected from the creative process. Like I worked with Sam and David Kearns on my special the most. And then the other people I worked on were my husband, who directed the stage version, Jonah Ray, who directed the screen version, and like Paul Bonanno, the editor, and Sean, the DP. Like they're all creatives. So I really can't think of any single moment in the process of creating the special where I had to like explain to a non-creative person what I was doing.
Yeah. And there's one thing I really loved about the special is that I didn't get a chance to see it. I only had to see clips as well as the background background video, I guess what it's called. What's the behind the scenes?
Behind the
That's it.
scenes, yeah.
Yeah, background video. But one, learning Jonah Ray was the director. That was
Hmm.
crazy. That's something that truly brought a smile on my face. And then two, it's a beautiful special. It looks great.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know what it looked like when your husband was directing it, but on screen, I'm sure on stage, it looks like amazing. It looks like something that I would see on a Hulu, on a Netflix, on a Max, on one of those platforms, even if it wasn't made for the most amount of money in the world.
Yeah. I think it was made for a fair amount of money, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, good, good.
And luckily I was because it was a dropout production, like I was not responsible for budgeting any of that. Um, I actually think it was pretty expensive for them to make. But
Wow.
we did shoot mine, I believe, Courtney Peroso's, and I think maybe two other improv shows all in one sort of 4 day span at the Elysian in LA.
Mhm.
So I think maybe they saved some money that way, but like they had a they had a full on this is I mean, like when we showed up for the shoot, they were like, "Oh, do you want to go see Video Village?" Then this is where like normally you see um a bunch of monitors for all the different cameras and stuff like that.
Right.
Except Video Village was inside of a van. It was like an FBI surveillance van that they pulled up, and it was like a very intense tech setup that I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." I swear I think I must have misheard this, but I mean I said, "Hey, is audience mic'd separately for this?" And my memory is that they told me that there were 30 mics on the audience,
Oh my gosh.
which is like wild. I don't think I'm making that up. I think that's what they told me. But they just had a real commitment to like making it a true top tier production value special. And I think it holds up. I think all of the ones like Hank's, mine, Adam Conover's, which is coming out soon. Um, I think visually they hold up against any of the Netflix stuff.
Mm. The 30 mics, I couldn't imagine. Like you hear somebody's phone go off, hear somebody whispering to their friend, like, I think Chris looks great in that wig,
Yeah,
things like
that's
that.
actually great. If you've seen the Rory Scovel special on Max, there's a moment where there's someone whispers into a mic. It's definitely done for a bit, but it's very funny.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It could definitely work. I think different things, especially that Rory has done even on Conan, I think could still play very well. I think there's so many different versions of comedy out there that people can make their own and really make it work. I mean, when I look at the title to the show, I'm just laughing. And I see or if I see you at the Fringe Festival, the poster of you, and then also the backside of you as Scarlett Johansson. That's
Mhm.
just funny in of itself. Where did that when you were writing something like when you're writing this, did you think that it would take on a life of its, I hate to say this, a life of its own in the way that it did?
I mean, I hoped that it would. I thought it was a hilarious idea years ago. And I've pitched this to multiple places where I thought that the concept itself was funny enough that people would just immediately latch onto it. To like one person show festivals or grants and funds and contests and stuff like that. I pitched it at least to 5 different places before I eventually was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to write it myself and fund it myself. So the initial push to get to Edinburgh Fringe in 2023 was just all my own money and doing a Kickstarter for which is basically begging your friends and family to like chip
Yeah.
in something. Um, so it's been an interesting process to feel like, um, hey, like this project basically turned out about as good as I thought it was going to be, and it seems like it's been received really well, and I feel like people really um uh agree with me that it's like funny. It's a funny idea and it's an interesting project. It's just funny that like all the way up until the point that they see it, they're like, nah, it's okay. And then it's like, and then they see it, and the whole time I've been like, no, I think this is a really funny idea.
Uh, okay. When you went to Edinburgh, what kind of food did they have there? What did you eat? What did you find that was like so enticing that you wanted to keep going back, especially since they were there for so long?
I love that you presume that it's the food that brought me back and that you're not wrong. Um, you know what's great about Edinburgh is that over the last 10 years, there's been a lot more Chinese people. And I think because Edinburgh University is a very appealing, prestigious university that is sort of reasonably priced for international students. So there's a lot of Chinese students at Edinburgh University now, way more than there were in 2012 when I first went. And because of that, there's like an influx of Chinese restaurants that are actually really good
Okay.
in Edinburgh. So it's that. There's also corny chains there, like a chicken place called Nando's, which I love.
I know Nando's, yes.
Um, and then an Indian place called Dishoom that I absolutely love. A noodle place called Wagamama. Like I could eat forever in Edinburgh. The only thing is I come home and I miss like street tacos in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Um, and then you do end up missing like McDonald's. There's McDonald's there as well, but there's all the fast food places like they have Pizza Hut. People are obsessed with like Papa John's over there in a way that I don't understand.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but like I go to McDonald's there, sure. But McDonald's there, you know what I really miss is like late night options because over there in Edinburgh, there's a McDonald's on Princess Street near the
Mhm.
train station that past 11 p.m. at night just becomes an absolute apocalyptic wasteland of drunk people. It's you have to wade through a bunch of very hostile, spaced out people to get your, big nuggets, basically.
What time would your shows end? Were you typically going to a place late at night after to get something to eat, or do you have a chance to like go around during the day and check things out?
Well, my solo shows both years have been at 1:40 p.m. in the afternoon, which is
Okay.
has been I ended up really loving that time
Mm,
because no one's drunk. Um, the only people going are really have an intention of like being there at 1:40 p.m. Like two of my favorite stand-ups in the world are Daniel Kitson and Stuart Lee. And the years that I've seen them the last couple times, they've been doing 10 a.m. shows. And it's like
wow.
you have to really be into their comedy to show up at 10 a.m. But I
Yeah.
think it works for them because then it's like, oh yeah, I have an audience that like wants to be here. It's not a random person isn't wandering around at 10 a.m. and just going into a comedy club.
Right.
Um, but then I do have some improv shows and some of those end at like 9 or 10 p.m. So a lot of
Yeah.
times you are sort of searching for a place. And like a lot of places in Europe they just don't have the um slavish devotion to retail experiences that we do, where
Mhm.
like there's going to be multiple restaurants open at 11:30 p.m. Um, Even Sunday, this past Sunday, I was in London and I needed to get one more piece of luggage. And on a Sunday in London, everything still closes at 6, which
Wow.
just now in America, I mean, like when I was a kid, there were places where like, oh, we're not open on Sunday. But now it's just like, oh, Sunday, we're open 25 hours on Sunday,
Right, right. When you left after doing the show, or when you even come back, from London, is there always this culture shock? I can only assume that, it's just like holy shit, like America is just so different from whatever's going on over there on the other side of the world.
There's some culture shock. I mean, most of it's good. I mean, I went grocery shopping yesterday and I was just like, oh, this giant supermarket with all these things. And like, you know, sodas are smaller there, that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
honestly, today I just like washed some laundry from the trip and I was just happy to have my own washer and dryer and that kind of stuff. But I mean, for the most part, there's also the culture shock of people don't care about live performance here as much as they do at Edinburgh Fringe. But like no place in the world would care as much. But you are in this bubble where people just give a shit about stand up and theater and the crazy clown show that you saw. And so like you just imagine being in a little bubble of like 100,000 people where if you're doing a stand-up show that people want to tell each other about, the genuine word of mouth will like spread through that ecosystem
Yeah.
to where you run into random people on the street that are just like, oh, I just heard about your show. Like it's this weird, bizarre world where people care about like live performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. It's something strange, but I mean, even still in Los Angeles and New York, it's people care a lot more than I'm in Atlanta than the people here, and even I talked to Adam Caton Holland and people in Colorado are just now
Mhm.
getting into having stand up and yeah, you can say, oh, I love live music and all that stuff, but it's different than watching an actual show, someone on stage
Yeah.
doing something for you and in front of you. Well, I don't want to waste any more of your time, Chris. This has been fantastic. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I'm glad to sit down and talk with you about this show. I'd known about it since you said you were going to Edinburgh on Never Not Funny, and I was just like, I wonder if I could ever talk to this guy. Let me see if I'm ever going to be offered a superstore recurring character phenomenon who is always just a funny guy when he pops up on this show.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, like if you are a person that's familiar with Dropout, I'm really curious to see what you think of the special because it's definitely a show that is for the platform that you're watching it on. I'll
Mhm.
just leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I always want to support Dropout. The one negative thing I can say about Dropout is they need to put clips on their YouTube channel because that's how you drive more people to the platform.
Yeah.
And that word of mouth thing that you were talking about. Just let's get more people, let's get more eyes. Just clip out 1 or 2 minutes and then put it up there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Chris, and you have a wonderful rest of your day
Thanks, man.
and congratulations.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
All right. See ya.